Joining us from CommSec is Tom Piotrowski. Tom, good morning. Good to see you. What can we expect when the market opens this morning?
Nice to see you, Danica. The market's going to kick off quite positively this morning. We'll be up by around 0.4%. So that will balance out the 1/3% decline that we saw on Friday, at least, for the local share market. And we've got Northern Hemisphere markets to thank for that. To some extent, there were patchy performances, but there were gains as well on Wall Street. We had the Dow up by 1/3%. The S&P 500 was up 0.2%. The Nasdaq was just in negative territory. But the important aspect of Friday's session, Danica, was the fact that we had some payrolls figures or employment figures out of the US, which threaded a challenging needle on a couple of fronts that satisfied the markets at least. So had this been an aggressively strong month for jobs growth, that would have been problematic in terms of the outlook for interest rates. What we saw was an outcome that satisfied most requirements for interest rates at least consolidating. So there were 187,000 jobs added to the US economy. That was a little bit ahead of the market's expectations, but we saw the unemployment rate jump from 3.5% to 3.8%. So that created the sense that perhaps for the time being we have seen the greatest momentum where US jobs growth is concerned, and it might moderate into the end of the year. We saw a bit of a bump up for average hourly earnings, but nothing to antagonise the situation. Bottom line is these figures were enough to satisfy the markets that we'll see the US Federal Reserve on hold when they next meet when it comes to interest rates. That's important, and it dovetails into a theme where this week is concerned, because one of the features of the week will be the RBA's decision tomorrow. We're expecting them to leave rates on hold, but then on top of that, we've got employment figures and growth figures out over the course of the next couple of days, Danica. So it's a really big week, but the markets seem to have found this piece for the moment that we might potentially be seeing a pause when it comes to rate hikes in a couple of important jurisdictions. So that's part of the reason why markets have been able to recover over the course of the last week. In particular, the ASX 200 over that time was up by around 2.4%. So it's a question now of whether or not we can consolidate on the gains of last week in particular.
Okay, well, we'll find out. Thank you, Tom.